Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on SoundCloud and on YouTube. And today my guest is Sabrina Osso, and Sabrina has a very interesting topic and something that's quite close to my heart, really. Sabrina is the founder and CEO of Osso Safe. She is a TEDx speaker, domestic violence speaker, real estate agent and consultant on promoting safety and preventing violence in the workplace, schools and in places of residence. Sabrina's personal and professional experience with the subject allows her to bring a unique and holistic approach to employers, landlords, tenants, students and teachers. She was honoured and grateful to have been one of the featured TEDx Talk speakers at New Jersey City University's TEDx Talk event on April 5th, 2018. Sabrina has been hired for numerous speaking engagements, including radio and podcast interviews. She graduated Montclair State University with a BS. I don't know what a BS is, but yeah, well, I'm sure we'll find out, in computer science. And Sabrina regularly takes continued education courses at Rutgers University to keep abreast of issues associated with home violence. Sabrina is also a professional dancer, oh my goodness, an actress who uses her performance talents to educate on the subject. As a real estate agent for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Abbott Realtors, she is bridging the real estate industry with Osso Safe. Well, Sabrina, what an impressive resume. Thank you so much for being here today. And domestic violence is one of my pet subjects. I absolutely love it. I don't love the subject, but I am such an advocate against domestic violence. So I feel like I'm met a kindred spirit. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
So tell me a little bit more about what you do with Osso Safe. What is it, and how does it help?
Yes. Again, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be with you here. My company, we combine education and technology to promote safety and prevent violence in the workplace, schools, but in particular in your place of residence. And we are introducing several products into the market, especially in the real estate industry. As you said, bridging the two, Osso Safe and real estate. Domestic violence, unfortunately, is very prevalent. It is just, and I like to say home violence because domestic violence has such a stigma that it is a woman's problem, and clearly it is not.
No.
And secondly, it assumes that all of the victims are female, and that's not true either. So I prefer to say home violence. It's more inclusive, and it makes up your home environment, whatever that may be. You could be living with your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your ex, your children, your stepchildren, your aunt, uncle, grandparent, and an episode of violence can occur in any one of those combinations. So we prefer to say home violence.
Okay.
People can more identify with that. We feel that it is imperative that people understand that you should not live with violence. Life is hard as it is. You should not have to be on the run in your own home. And if we make homes safe, then workplaces will become safe as well, by far. I hope I answered your question, or at least gave you kind of like a summary.
Yeah, you did, absolutely. Thank you so much. So how does home violence then get perpetrated in the workplace? How does that transfer?
Well, what happens is, if however you are at home will carry over at work. It will carry over in schools, universities, in movie theaters, in concerts. So if you are verbally, physically, or even sexually violent at home, then most probably that will carry over, that behavior will carry over in the workplace. And it could be as simple as maybe a derogatory comment, which isn't, and I'm not trying to belittle that in any way, shape, or form. It could come in the form of sexual harassment. It could come in the form of uh, even a physical altercation at work, which happens. It could be something that happens in the parking lot at work. So where it becomes, usually it starts verbal, but then it can escalate to physical and also sexual, even sexual violence, if you will, in the workplace. If you're in an elevator with someone and you get touched inappropriately, um, or you have maybe a smack or pulling hair or maybe something thrown at you. So these are all, it's those three ways that it carries over in the workplace: verbally, physically, and sexually, for the most part.
Okay, so
Um,
what if the person's a narcissist or a gaslighter, and so they're really nice to everybody else, but at home they're, the perpetrator, male or female?
is your question at if they are violent or abusive in the workplace? You're saying?
No, if they're violent at home, but they may be a gaslighter or a narcissist who displays behavior in the workplace that is, they're the golden child. They couldn't do anything wrong, but when they get home they're an awful person. How can you weed those people out of the workplace, and how can you find them?
Yes, right. Yes, well, that is one of the attributes of an abuser, where they are just charming in public and then menacing in private. So that is a common attribute of abusers, of bullying, of whether it be in the workplace or at home or at school or what have you. Um, we feel that, and we've seen this multiple times, the the behavior comes out, and it could be very subtle. It could, like I mentioned before, it could be maybe some derogatory comment that gets put off as a joke at work. Oh, look at what she's wearing, or oh wow, that guy is very effeminate. Maybe he's and they'll say something derogatory about that person. So it's important to know the warning signs. It's important to be educated on the warning signs, which is what we do in our seminars. It is very important to recognize something that may seem innocent is actually uh, kind of like a coming attraction. Wow, this could really escalate. So you want to nip it in the bud, if you will. You want to not condone this behavior in the workplace. You want to say, look, we are a fair and a equal opportunity. We promote that in the workplace, and we want to make sure everyone feels comfortable. And if you are not feeling comfortable, we want to make sure that there are mechanisms in place to report any any verbal, physical, sexual bullying, sexual harassment, anything of the sort. So it's important to have all of these systems in place in the workplace, whatever that may be.
Yeah. So it's important then, obviously, that businesses have policies and procedures in place for those sorts of behaviours like bullying and sexual harassment and you know equal opportunity and all that sort of thing. Is that a common practice with businesses in the US? I know in most businesses here in Australia that is a common practice. In fact, it's actual legislation that they must have those policies and procedures, but I'm not quite sure about the US.
Actually, in the US, there is close to around 70%, 70, of the companies in the US that do not address bullying, violence, workplace violence. They don't have the mechanisms or the systems or they don't really engage in seminars, and that really needs to change.
Wow, that is horrendous. That's a horrendous statistic.
Yep, so around 68 to 70%, where there is no, they know that there is a problem, but they don't have mechanisms, for example, hiring also safe to actually tackle these problems. So we are working on making that percentage much lower, and what's important is to really make the link, the connection between workplace violence and home violence. If you don't solve it in the home, it will not be solved in the workplace, really. So we're really one of the few companies that makes that connection. And it's a very important link to make, because how you are at home will dictate how you are publicly, really, especially in the workplace. And it is indeed a practice, if you will. I know in Australia, like you said, there are laws. I did some homework. There's the Fair Work Act of 2009, and this is in Australia, and the Fair Work Amendment Act in 2018 that was passed for comprehensive rights and protections for workplace and family violence victims, so on and so forth. But it's something that has to be addressed much more. I would say on a global level.
Oh, I totally agree. And I'm talking, countries that are not West, that are Eastern cultured. Really, their culture it's horrifying what they do. Especially to women, and don't get me started on that, because it's that really needs to change. And I'm hoping that with everything that's going on this year, that next year there will be some uprising, not a violent one, of course, but that will address these issues, because it really does need addressing sooner rather than later.
Right, I agree. Right, like a positive uprising, you're saying, right. Yes, COVID has escalated everything with violence, definitely. COVID on a global level, because people really now, people's homes have become their workplaces, right, for a lot of us. So, if your home is safe, fantastic. That's fantastic. However, for so many people, that is not the case.
No.
Home is a war zone, really. So, and COVID has spotlighted that in a very big way on a global level, whether you're in China, Russia, Australia, the United States, Brazil, South America, Europe. It has spiked tremendously.
Yeah, it has here. It's awful. It's the statistics for home violence is,
alarming.
it's not good. It's not good news. Anyway, so I know home violence, and we're talking about adults here mainly, but what about the home violence against children?
Yes, it is horrific. The children suffer the most. There is a statistic here in the US, and this is just in the US alone, and mind you, these are just the ones that are documented. There are 15 million children that witness violence in their own homes each and every year in the US. Those are just the ones that are documented. And if you divide that by 50 states, that comes out to be about 300,000 children per state. Yes, in Texas is a bigger state than New Jersey. So you have to take that into consideration, but it's still very alarming. It's 15 million children And they're the ones that suffer the most. I could tell you from personal experience, I am a former victim of violence. My father beat my mother on a regular basis. And I can tell you it's very traumatic, extremely traumatic, and the children suffer so much. And as children, you put it on yourself that it's your fault almost, that you're responsible for your parents' safety or and your own safety, and you're just a child. So the children suffer the most, which is why we really need to make, which is what we do at OSO Safe, we make a concerted effort to really give power to children, because at least here in the States, we don't, not enough anyway. They are the unspoken victims. I mean, people kind of know that they are victimized, whether it be verbal, physical, or sexual abuse, but I feel like we need to do much more to give them rights, to let them speak out, especially when both parents are abusive. And these parents, they go to work, they're in the workplace, they go about their business, and then at home, they are abusive, or they downplay their child's suffering. The child gets told, "You're being a brat, a monster, you're ungrateful. This is your fault," and then the children grow up blaming themselves, and they will become future victims or future abusers. And this is where we need to stop it before it even starts, on a preventative level. It's very important to do that.
Yeah, we've got to break the cycle somewhere. And we've got to educate the children that it's not okay to be either, number one, abused, or that they need to report the abuse to somebody, if they're seeing their parents, beating the crap out of each other, so that they're not growing up in and they're starting to believe in themselves, because it's not their fault. It's
Right.
They're children, as you said. They're just children.
Right. And this is why, if I may just briefly mention, we're introducing a product into the real estate industry where we go into, we are concentrating on the landlord-tenant market right now, because it's the path of least resistance, where we do education for all tenants, both adults and children, before something even happens. So, in other words, you have a lease. We have something called the Osso Safe Home Sweet Home Package, and it consists of mainly a policy, a seminar, and an app. And this is for landlords and tenants, where everyone signs the policy to say, okay, I as a landlord, I promise to provide you a safe space for you to live. You, in turn, as my tenant, you promise to not act in any way, shape, or form that is abusive. Otherwise, you, the abuser, gets immediately evicted from the premises. And we go into full knowledge, knowing that that would be the consequences. And then the seminar educates on all aspects of abuse, but in a positive manner, where we actually give our students, our tenants, tools. For example, if you're in your unit A, and you just found out that your daughter is pregnant, or that your son just told you that he's gay, well, how do you handle that? You certainly don't act abusively. You may have to, yes, you'll get into an argument, you may have disagreements, but it never crosses the line of abuse. So these are all points that we educate on, and it is indeed a practice. And then we also employ therapists. So therapists are assigned to our OSO Safe certified buildings. So that way there's a therapist on hand for any of these situations, whether they come up or not. we know that there's a therapist assigned to an OSO Safe certified building. So that way we don't wait for the crap to hit the fan, so to speak. This is all preventative. And this is a much better way to handle residency, where we make this a standard condition of residency, non-abuse, non-violence, safety. We practice safety. So, and this will be beneficial in the workplace as well, because as we say, we make home safe, your workplaces will become safe. It'll be a direct benefit, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, and if it could be introduced into, corporations, organisations, whatever, that would be great. That would be the policies that would be, the non-abusive sexual harassment type things, but on a larger scale, I guess. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, there are so many alarming statistics, even with sex abuse with children. 90% of the children that are attacked, they know their perpetrator. So it's usually someone in the family, or maybe who the mother is dating, or who the father is dating for that matter, or a stepdad. And 60% of them will say nothing. So with what we're doing, where we make this a standard condition of residency with our products, we're looking to minimize that and actually prevent that in residency in general. Whether you live in a townhouse, a co-op, a condo, a single family home, a multi-family dwelling, it shouldn't matter. This should not be a part of anyone's existence, especially children.
No, I can empathise with that. I'm a product of a sexual abuse by my own father. So and that continued from 9 till 14. So I can vouch that is just not acceptable behaviour. And it took me a long time to get over that, but I can really empathise with children that are going through it or have even been through it and haven't got into survival mode, that they still are victims. And so that's one of my plans for this year, is to write a book about my journey from abuse to survival. So yeah.
Or abuse to power.
Yeah,
yes,
and that too, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. There's too many of us. There's just too many of us. Our common thread is that there was some form of abuse that happened in our childhood, or continued in a relationship, or whatever the case may be. And we're looking at also Safe to really diminish and prevent it on multiple levels. Like I said, it should not be a part of anyone's existence, anyone's residency, period.
No, and it causes all sorts of mental health issues as well. So you're not just looking at the violence or the abuse or whatever, but what about the mental thing? I've got 3 types of mental illness because of the abuse I endured as a child. So and those things aren't taken into account as you become an adult, and you grow up with these mental illnesses, and no one knows what's wrong with you, least of all the person who's got them. And everyone just thinks you're a brat or an attention seeker or whatever. But it was really horrible and really hard for me as a teenager.
Sure, of course, and therapy is an important part of healing in any form, whether it be group or individual. We encourage that a lot, and not all therapists are created equal. You may have to try on a few size, but don't let that discourage you. We say that to people in our seminars, workshops, and speaking engagements. Not all therapists are going to maybe be a good fit, but don't let that discourage you, because there's no way that you could heal alone. You cannot get over or be on the road to healing by yourself. You're going to need help, whether it be in a book format, other peers that have gone through it, group sessions, individual sessions. I know here in the States, I don't know about Australia. I'm assuming also in Australia, there have been a lot of commercials to encourage people to get help ever since COVID hit.
Yeah.
Like to kind of take the shame out of it. And I'm so glad, because there's shame in not getting help versus getting help.
Yeah.
It's one of our mantras that we say with abuse in general. It's a very important part of just getting back to who you were supposed to be in the first place.
Absolutely.
Because I know you can relate. Abuse steals your life.
It does.
Essentially, it steals your life. How can you think about being a dancer or a scientist or whatever it is that you were meant to do if you're distracted by being in a war at home, and then it carries over in the workplace. Maybe you're extra sensitive, and it's because of everything that happened. It's a normal byproduct, and as you mentioned, you don't know, or people don't realize the connection until you make that connection, and it's all a process, a very important healing process. So therapy in any format, whatever that is. There's talk space here, headspace.
Yeah, we've got headspace here too.
Okay, yeah, it's an important aspect of healing and preventing it, like repeating the cycle, stopping it, not passing it on to our children, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's very important that everyone has a hand in it, whether you're a survivor, because we don't call them victims, we call them survivors here. We don't like to use that word victim. It sounds it's trashy, I reckon. But anyway, even if they're in a situation, we still call them survivors because they have survived. But so everyone needs to have a hand in it. You even have to. If you're being abused, you still need to have a hand in your own survival. You just can't just keep taking it, even though, I don't know, don't get me started on it. It's just too hard for me. I get so emotional about it. I get so worked up because I just think that there's no need for violence anywhere. I mean, I just don't like it. I hate it. And
of course, yes. And I know it's hard for both of us. You're a form of a survivor, so am I. We're developing an app, and it's being updated. This is the other portion of it where it detects violence, and this is where a landlord will get an alert to say, "Wow, I just saw you pull her hair," or "I just saw you sexually assault someone in your family. You gotta go. These are grounds for eviction. You signed the policy. You've been educated in the seminar. We are fostering a safe environment here in an OSHA Safe certified building. You are to leave the premises immediately." And this is a good way to prevent it, or to at least to diminish it greatly. And abusers won't get away with half the things that they have been getting away with. I know if I had something like this growing up, my reality as a child would have been much, much different. My father wouldn't have done what he did so easily if my services were around back then, And the app is being improved upon as I'm speaking to you, but this is another aspect of the package that we are promoting and marketing. Technology has to be a big part of it. It's a very important part of it. Along with
Absolutely,
one
absolutely.
reinforcing the other, the technology reinforcing the education, and the education reinforcing the technology.
So I'm taking it's a phone app.
Right. It's a phone app. Yes, it will detect right now violent-like motions and captures them in real time, issuing alerts
So
either
is it on
via
Apple
email,
or Android? Is it on both or one or?
both Android and iPhone.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You might have to send it to me. I might have to promote it over here.
Sure. Once it's done updating and all of the modifications, I'll definitely reach out to you.
Beautiful. Yeah, because I'm the president of an organisation called Healing Through Love, and we have free pamper days for home violence survivors, and so they get free pampering for the day. And that your app would be an absolute bonus to offer survivors to
Sure.
put on their phones. It'd be great. They
Well,
could it'll help
with,
protect them.
with this technology, it's actually where you're not responsible for your safety. The app does it for you because
Mm,
it will detect it. Like most apps that do this kind of safety is you have to either hold a button or you have to have some code, or if somebody's attacking you in your home, or let alone in the public, let alone in your home, you're not going to be able to think about that. You're on shutdown mode and you're trying to survive that moment of horror. And but this my app, the way I designed it, it'll detect it. So the landlord gets the alert and police are notified. So that way you don't have to detect it yourself. There's no, it's detected for you. We have to take the responsibility of safety out of the victim's hands and put it in the institutions of society, mainly the real estate industry, schools, workplaces, the sports industry. That's where it needs to be.
yeah,
Obviously, victims have to do their part. They cannot invite the abuser back. They cannot. That we say, help us to help you. You cannot. We just got the abuser evicted. If you want to continue the relationship, I mean, that is on you, but he's not coming back here or she's not coming back here. It
yeah.
works both ways.
But if we had that app here to give to our survivors, they could put it on their phone and then they could nominate a person to be notified if there was violence towards them. So it would be absolutely wonderful. Such a
Yes,
great innovation.
thank you. I'm just taking notes as we're speaking, just to remind myself. Once it's done, I'll definitely reach out to you.
Yeah. Well, we're
Uh,
connected on LinkedIn and Facebook, so
right.
yeah, we can chat about it some more.
Sure.
Anyway, I know that it's very, very early at your house, so I think I've kept you up long enough. Thank you, Sabrina, so much for your time and for sharing information about your business and your app. It's very interesting. I think it will help a lot of people when it's eventually rolled out. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you today. Do you have a website?
Yes. Yes. It's ososafe.com.
Yep.
My email is Sabrina at ososafe.com. On all the social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Alignable. People can find me there, and my website does have a lot of information on there on everything that we're working on. If I may mention, I wanted to just say pornography is a big part of violence.
Mm.
And this needs to be addressed in a big way. And we do a lot of seminars and speaking engagements on the subject because there's a big connection between violence and pornography. And something that has been brought to my attention, there's something called a financial dominatrix. And this is where the woman is doing the abusing, which is extremely horrific. The things that are done online or even off camera is very damaging. And it has come to my attention that these women, they infiltrate in our societies and they pretend to be upstanding citizens. Meanwhile, they're essentially a paid sex abuser. And it needs to become illegal. In the States, this is legal because it's a consensual thing. They have the client, they're doing the abusing, but these women prey on men that have children, and then so the children are enveloped in this horrific situation. And I wanted to say something about it. I'm trying to say something about it on all the podcasts that I'm doing, that this needs to be brought attention because it's the woman doing the abusing, and it needs to become illegal. But there's a big connection between pornography, trafficking, child sex trafficking. I want to thank you for that opportunity to just mention it. And this is where my app is also a big, it will be a big detector in this regard as well, to diminish and prevent this type of violence as well.
Lovely. All right. Thank you for sharing that. And I will look forward to connecting with you about the app when it's finally rolled out and able to be used by, survivors of home violence and any other type of violence for that matter. Anyway, thank you so much again. And we'll catch up very soon.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much.